On the bad days, I ask myself, what good is all this body positivity I talk about when my own body exhausts me? When I can't forget how uncomfortable I feel in a club unless I drink my weight in tequila? When my girlfriends stop being the woman who saved me and instead become the bodies I will never have? When I seek validation from men's hands on a dance floor, a hot breath in my ear, a strange body naming me beautiful? Does all of my work become undone when I choose to stay home, alone, crying in bed, and when this poem asks to be written, I say no, until it's choking me, until I can't breathe through the sobs, until I don't know which is the lie, my love for my fat body or my desperation to escape it? Can love and hate live in the same place? Last week I was dancing with a man I had never met, but his hands touched me like they knew me for years. I laughed, and I was made of mirrors reflecting all light in the room. Then another man leaned in and said to him, at some point, you just gotta say fuck it and get what you can, right? I closed my eyes as my partner kissed my neck. I let him grab a handful of my ass. I let him ask if he could take me home. I danced like if my demons were watching, like if they stood just a few feet away, alone with a drink in hand. And most days, I don't mind those stares that linger over my belly, knowing that I confuse people who think you can't be this fat and still be the baddest chick in the room. You should see me. I could blind the sun on days like that. But then come the nights where I wonder if I am still that woman that used to pretend to be other women on the internet just to feel loved. Is this another woman I am pretending to be? Because I love myself. I swear I do. There isn't a day that I don't praise this body and how it forgives me, how it saves me, how it lets me live here, lets me be this unapologetic, be this fat girl glory, be this sweet skin, be this thick love. And I believe in this love, in this truth that is always the truth. Even when the world tries to tell me that being fat and beautiful ain't something I already do every fucking day. Hi. Hello. So my name is Yesika Salgado, and I am a poet and a fly, fat, brown girl. Now, I didn't always introduce myself to the world this way. In fact, I didn't introduce myself at all for a long, long time. I come from a large Salvadoran family. I am the oldest of three sisters, and just so happens that I am also the fattest. In my culture, everything is celebrated with food. Birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, church, every other Saturday, everything. And if you don't eat when you come over to visit a relative, it is not only an insult to their food, but also to their love and their hard work. So I ate, and I developed a complicated relationship with food and my body, always feeling ashamed for how much it grew, how much space I took up, how little of me I felt with the more mass I accumulated. As a teenager, I discovered catfishing. Now, catfishing is when you go online pretending to be something you are not. I pretended to be a tall, thin brunette, a thin woman with conventional beauty. I thought now I was someone worth being heard, worth being seen. So I started sharing my poetry on online forums this way. You see, I thought that a fat woman, a fat Latina woman, had no place in the world to tell them about love or her family or sex or anything like that. But as someone beautiful, or who I thought was beautiful at the time, people would listen. And this way, I started getting involved in a lot of relationships, a lot of them romantic relationships, because I've always liked the boys. And the last time that I catfished, it was with a man named Dominic. We had been in a relationship for 6 months, and I was so in love, but the lies were piling over each other so much that I couldn't even breathe. I finally told him one day the truth. I am not the woman in the pictures. I am not the woman he thought he was in love with. That's not me. He asked to see the real me, my face. I remember sitting on the curb outside of my job that day, sobbing at the thought of taking a picture of my own body and sending it to this man that I loved. I thought my biggest sin wasn't the lies, but it was in tricking him into falling in love with a fat woman. So when I sent him my actual picture, he answered, "Why didn't you let me love you? Why didn't you give me that choice? I went home and that question kept rattling in my head. Why didn't you give me that choice? Why didn't you give me that choice? Why didn't I give myself that choice? I had allowed the world to decide who I was and what I looked like carried value. I hadn't asked myself to love myself. I was sad and angry and frustrated. I didn't know what to do. My mentor at the time suggested I seek therapy, someone to hold me accountable, to pull me outside of myself. So I started seeing my therapist. I specifically asked for a woman, and she and I used to meet every Saturday for over a year, and we did a lot of hard work of finding myself. We did a lot of exercises that involved me looking at myself. So I would go home and stare in my mirror. As uncomfortable as it was, I would take as many pictures as I could, selfies, and post them all over the internet. Fast forward a few months and even years, I started wearing lipstick, I started doing my hair, I started wearing other colors that flattered my beautiful brown skin, my curves, all of it. I remember I was at a shopping mall, and I was buying stuff like we all usually do. And I saw a crop top hanging in the distance, and it glowed, like those apparitions that happen, like it was calling my name. And so I took it, I went into the dressing room, I put it on, and I looked at myself in the mirror for a long time. At first I felt ridiculous, and then I felt different, interesting, bold, like those people you see in TV that you're like, man, if only I could be as brave as them. I bought the shirt, I took it home with no intentions of ever wearing it anywhere. It hid in my closet for a long, long time. I'd pull it out, look at it, I took selfies in it, I posted them online, but I never wore it out. It was there. Until one day, I was like, oh well. I put it on like armor. I braced myself for whatever would happen, and I went out into the world. And guess what happened? Nothing. Nobody cared. I didn't implode. Nobody threw tomatoes at me. I made it back home safe and sound, and this way, crop tops became a part of my armor every day. I started wearing them specifically for performances. I started wearing them to clubs. I started wearing them around the house. My belly, always exposed, the part that I always wished away from me, became my biggest pride and joy. Now I'm a poet, and I've always been performing. And this way, I formed the collective called Chingona Fire. And we not only celebrate other women, but we also celebrate our different bodies. My partner, Angela Aguirre, and I look very, very different together. She's considered a petite, smaller woman next to me. But she and I look so fly when we stand next to each other with our bold lipstick and our hoops and our hair and everything. So I learned to love myself, to say yes to myself any chance I got. Now, this doesn't negate the fact that all of those years of difficult words that I learned didn't still rattle in my head. Sometimes I wake up and I still have bad days, days that I can't get out of bed, days where this body feels so heavy, where I resent it, where I feel guilty for feeling this bad about my body because I know there are so many women that look at my bravery and say, I want to be like her. So I remind myself on those days that love does not work this way. Love is a constant question. It is being willing to ask yourself the same question every day, and no matter what the answer is, to always be willing to answer it with an open heart. You see, loving yourself isn't a spell that you pour over yourself. You don't wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm fine, and nobody else is ever going to say anything about this. I'm going to feel good every single day, every single moment. That's not how this works. It is armor. We put it on piece by piece. Some days you could only get the sleeves on. Other days just one shoe. Some days you get all of the battle gear on and you go out into the world ready for war. I have a saying that says take a picture on the good days so that you could find it on the bad days. Leave yourself love notes. Leave yourself a reminder of the days that you felt invincible, of the days that it didn't matter what anybody else had to say about anything about you, where you believed your own voice in your head, where you spoke louder than the roars of anything else. And this is what I do. My whole social media is based on celebrating my own body and those of others around me. Women who most of the time aren't used to seeing somebody that looks like them being raised on a pedestal. I tell them, raise yourselves too. And I invite you to do it too. Go home tonight. Look at yourself in the mirror. Drink in all of your brilliance, that special part of you that makes you you, your smile, your one crooked tooth, how your hair quite won't stay down all the time. All of it, take a picture of yourself. If you don't feel like posting it online, that's fine. Make it the wallpaper on your phone. Email it to yourself. Print it out, hang it on your wall. Remember that no one can ever take away the things you tell yourself when nobody else is listening. It is a truth that is always the truth, even when the world tries to tell you that being fat and beautiful ain't something you already do every fucking day. Thank you.